Hello and welcome to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is written by Jheqia, narrated by Dawn. Hello. And this is actual bonus story, a sequel to the Mistletoe Chronicles. So this is a New Year's Eve story and is coming out on New Year's Eve. So I just want to wish you a very happy new year. I hope 2021 was good for you and that 2022 is even better. And this is called Once Upon a Story. Massive shout out to the artist in the thumbnail, Gabriel Gala. A beautiful, stunning artwork has actually inspired this piece, so make sure you go and send her some love. All her information's in the description below. Send Jheqia some love, all her information's in the description below, and send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you thought of it and subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you enjoy. Once Upon a Story. Adrien, are you sure this dress is appropriate for this party? Marinette stood in front of the standing mirror, staring at her reflection, which was being decidedly rude by showing her exactly how nervous she was. The antique rose satin and chiffon stitched with glittering beadwork complemented her complexion, and the design flattered her slight curves. But the neckline that had seemed like such an interesting and novel element was now rather intimidating. Wouldn't people think she was trying too hard? Like she had to prove she was good enough to work at Gabriel's, to attend such a formal affair at the annual New Year's Eve gala, and now married to her boss's son. Adrien's face appeared around hers in the mirror. His leaf green eyes smiled at her as he pressed a kiss to her bare shoulder. "I think you look stunning," he murmured, wrapping his arms around her waist and swinging her slightly back and forth to make the skirt sparkle in the lamplight. The look he gave her was so warm and proud that she blushed. Even 4 months of being married to the love of her life hadn't curbed her of the tendency to blush, especially when Adrien looked at her like she was his entire world. "You said the same thing about last night's nightgown I made, and they're hardly in the same class," she replied, smirking at his reflection. He chuckled. "It isn't my fault. My wife is the most gorgeous woman on the planet. You would look stunning no matter what you wore. Besides, you made that gown for others to see and admire your skills." He lowered his voice in a suggestive purr. "The other one was made for my eyes only." "Oh, you," she teased. "I think you won't be allowed to use that word anymore." She rolled her eyes, but her hands gently sealed his against her waist. He gave her a lopsided grin. "That's okay. I spent several years creating lists of the perfect adjectives to describe your beauty, my lady. There's beautiful, gorgeous, alluring, lovely, intoxicating, breathtaking." She blushed again and fidgeted with the neckline of the dress, causing Adrien to sigh. "I should really know better by now than to try and flirt with you when you're worried. So, what's bothering you about the dress?" "It's just, this is the first formal event I'm attending as your wife. I just want everything to go smoothly." "What makes you think it won't?" His eyes, staring into hers in the mirror, they were so calm and confident that she couldn't help but lean against him for support. "It doesn't look like I'm trying too hard. I mean, I added the rosettes around the neckline to soften it, and the gauze sleeves turned out great, but I don't think I look like me." "Marinette." He turned her by the shoulders until she faced him instead of the mirror. "The dress looks amazing, and you know that. What is it you're really worried about?" She bit her bottom lip and looked down so she wouldn't have to meet his gaze, her hands gripping the lapels of his cream-colored suit. How could she tell him she was worried about embarrassing him in front of the family business? That no matter how hard she worked to earn her position at Gabriel's, she had the feeling that her father-in-law had been tougher on her than he would have been on anyone else. Marinette still felt like she walked a fine line between talent and nepotism in the collective minds of the company. When she didn't answer, he tilted her chin up while he raised the hand wearing her wedding ring to his lips. It had become their daily ritual, their little way to remind themselves that it was the two of them against the world, whether as heroes or as husband and wife. He said nothing. Adrien merely waited for her, as patient as time itself, knowing she would tell him when she was ready. It's just... I know I've worked hard as a head designer, and I've worked hard to get here, and I just have this nagging sense that I need to constantly prove that I've earned it, that I didn't just marry you to get ahead in the business like your father said last year, that I didn't just get the job because I'm your wife. I know I've always had big dreams, but I'm a pretty simple girl when all is said and done. This... She gestured at the dress she had spent months making for this night. Is suddenly screaming that I'm not enough and I don't deserve to be there at all. I feel like a little girl playing dress up and not the head designer of a world-famous fashion house or the wife of the most wonderful man on earth. I feel like such an imposter. Her hand still cradled in his, he led her over to the large canopied bed, gestured for her to sit with him on the edge. Let me tell you a story, Marinette, he said softly, a gentle smile playing on his lips. I'm not sure a fairy tale is going to help, my prince. She sniffled, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Ah, but this isn't just any story, princess. It's ours. Did I ever tell you about the day I fell in love with you? Of course. You said you fell in love with me when we defeated Stoneheart. No, that was when I fell in love with Ladybug. Did I tell you about the day I fell in love with Marinette? She looked at him in confusion. I know, the secret identities make antecedents a nightmare, he said, responding to her look. But I'm quite serious. It was the first year after our Christmas date, the charity event one. Anyway, it was that day you needed help to practice your confession to Buttercup. He smirked at her and wriggled his eyebrows in such a smug fashion that she nudged him with her elbow and giggled as her cheeks burnt. In retrospect, that was the most embarrassing day of my life, she groaned. But by all means, go on. He chuckled at her embarrassment, his calloused thumb tracing the soft patterns of her knuckles. Well, the story gets worse before it gets better, as all wonderful fairy tales should. That had been my worst day ever with Ladybug. She yelled at me, screamed at me, and finally threw me into a trash can in an absolute rage that all of Paris thought we were the couple of the year when her heart firmly laid elsewhere. Adrien, She started, but he stopped her with a swift kiss. Didn't Mama Chang teach you not to interrupt a good story? Now, where was I? In a trash can, she replied sarcastically. Yes, thank you, my love. Yes, I, the famous Cat Noir, was in a trash can. The lowest point in my life, and I decided to destroy all the billboards with our pictures on them, swearing off love forever, when suddenly I heard a voice calling out to me as if from heaven. She snorted. He was such a drama queen. From my balcony, you mean? Is it my fault that's where my angel landed? But that is beside the point. Who should call me over but the most beautiful girl in my school, begging for me to help her rehearse with her love confession for the boy she adored. Are we going to go through that whole day step by step? That'll be one way to solve my problem. We'll never get to the party, but your father will kill us. Adrien gave her a deadpan stare. Are you going to let me finish or what? She giggled. I missed the opportunity to see my own grumpy cat. Very well, I won't interrupt anymore. Now, you may not know this, but I had a bit of a crush on this girl, the beautiful Marinette Dupan Chang, but I was so wrapped up in desperately trying to win the affection of a certain spotted heroine that I chose to ignore the amazing love that was staring me in the face. He paused, as if waiting for her to jump in with another quick retort, but when she didn't, he continued. She wanted to rehearse a confession of love for someone, and I knew I was in love with Ladybug, that there was no way I could have thought it was for me. Little did she know I had sworn off love that very day, and my poor heart was aching with loneliness, making me vulnerable. She had written a very complicated, over-dramatic speech, and I had the nerve to keep interrupting her, making her flustered and angry. Then, when she insisted, I tried to do the speech to show her how it should be done, and I overdid it a bit and made it sound corny. If Marinette's cheeks could have gotten any redder, they would have, but his dramatic retelling of that ridiculous day had swept her out of her depressing thoughts. It was interesting to hear it told from his perspective, even though she still regretted how she had treated him that day, on both sides of the mask. It didn't hurt that a soft blush formed on his cheeks as well. So, I suggested we take a break. We ended up spending the day together. We laughed, we opened up to each other, we shared our problems, and it just felt so good to be close to her. Do you know why? Why? He caressed her face with a tenderness that made all her insecurities fade away to nothing. Because that girl had a heart of gold, and she was full of light. But instead of hoarding it for herself and rising high on her many talents, she spread the light to everyone she knew, so that they could have their own chance to shine. She filled me up and lit a light inside of me on my darkest day. Even Ladybug can do that. And when Marinette realized that the words she had slaved over weren't the right ones, she threw them away and spoke from her heart. When I heard them, I realized how special she was to me, how her sweet clumsiness and ramblings had been more of a mask than I ever wore, because that was the day I saw her full, radiant heart in its entirety. He sighed. His voice was getting softer, and his hands cupping hers trembling slightly. It took a while for my mind to accept what my heart learnt that day. That to be loved by Marinette was the greatest of all treasures, for where she loved with such passion and intensity and dedication as she put it into everything else she did. He ran his hand up to her shoulders and cradled her face, pressing his forehead to hers. Do you remember the night of the mayor's Christmas party? I'm not likely to forget the night I showed you my identity. That night, I told myself I would take that one more night, and if nothing happened between me and Ladybug, then I would let her go and come to you, Marinette. Because ever since that day on your balcony, my heart had been split between you. He chuckled. Only for my lady and the princess who had been stealing my heart away, for her to be one and the same. You have no idea how happy that made me, Marinette, to learn that I was your buttercup, that you had been learning to love the mask and let go of my other side, and I had been trying to do the same with you. Oh, there are no words of how I wanted and needed your love and how it made me feel. He kissed her wedding ring again. It has always been us against the world, my love. I don't care what my father thinks, what the company thinks, what anyone else except you. The world and everyone in it may make demands or gossip or think as they please, but I will always choose you. You are my Marinette, my lady, my princess, my freedom, and my love. The only one capable of hiding your light is you. If you let me, I will hold you up so that everyone will see you shine, the way you always shine for me. She stared at him, lost for words amidst the flood of love, confidence, and confirmation he gave her. Her kitty had always been her courage and confidence in battle, as well as her protector, but she should have remembered that he was her strongest supporter in life as well. He had always been behind her, guarding her back and lifting her up so she could do what needed to be done. Whether as heroes or as couples, or as they started the daunting task of creating a new life together. Marinette never doubted him, but she allowed doubt to creep into herself without noticing and letting his love and strength drive it out. Tears rolled down her cheeks, and she pulled him in for a kiss. "That was beautiful, my kitty. I'm sorry. It can just be a hard balance sometimes, remembering to believe in myself. You know, I never thought I deserved your love after everything I put you through. But while Ladybug would sometimes tear Cat Noir down, Marinette would always build Adrien back up again. You have always been there for me." He chuckled, "even when you weren't." "You're right," she conceded, taking his hand and kissing his ring in return. "I know." Then his cocky smile changed to a raised eyebrow and a wary look. "Just for clarification, right about what?" "The antidotes are a pain in the neck," she quipped, but she couldn't hold back the soft smile as her heart filled with love once more for him and all he meant to her. "Have I told you how much I love you, Adrien?" He cast a sly glance at his watch. "Not in the last 15 minutes. She gave him a smirk that she knew he found irresistible. "Well, let's make sure to put it on my to-do list. You know, you could always just show me." She grabbed the rose-colored ties she had made him to match her gown and pulled him into a kiss, pouring all the love, the strength, the passion, and the confidence he always gave her back into him. When she finally released him, they were both breathless. "I guess we should get going then," she said, trying to raise from the edge of the bed, but he grabbed her hand and pulled her back into his arms. "Let's be fashionable late," he breathed. "I thought you wanted to help me shine tonight." "I do," Adrien replied, kissing her softly. "But I love it best when you shine for me." After a kiss that filled her with warm tingles and curled her toes, he pulled away with a sigh. "You're right. We should be going, and it would be a shame for everyone to miss that dress." "Fine," she said, conceding to the responsibilities of the moment, "but only if I get to dance with you this evening. It has been too long since we last danced in the moonlight." And dance they did, even if it was the stiff, formal sort such occasions required. Adrien's smile grew wider with every compliment she received about her dress, and the proud, positive way his hand curled around her made her heart sing and her cheeks burn. It was as if her ladybug look had wrapped their evenings in a golden glow. He even managed to disengage them from the party half an hour before midnight. "Remind me to talk to the shoe department about designing comfortable heel shoes," Marinette said, gesturing with the offering footwear as Adrien opened the door to their townhouse. "My feet are killing me." He took the elegant heel sandals from her and set them by the stairs to the second floor next to his own shoes. Then he turned on some romantic piano piece. "I believe I promised you a proper dance this evening," he murmured, pulling her into his arms as the music swirled around them. You did, my prince." She felt all the tension her body held relax and then trickle away as they swayed together in the living room. No matter what life threw at them, he was her security and strength. If she was his princess, then he was her champion, defending her against the challenges of life, as strong as she defended him. Not that he looks very noble and courageous right now, she thought. He just looks like a contented cat that had finally gotten his cream. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked. Oh, just thinking. Do you remember the first time we danced together? At Chloe's I'm trying to be nicer party?" He chuckled and rubbed his jaw against her hair. "I should have known that I loved you then. I didn't even wait for you to say yes before I dragged you onto the dance floor. I wanted to hold you, wanted you closer even then." That is one of my favourite memories, she said, melting into his arms where she truly belonged. And when we danced in the moonlight in New York, she sighed and leaned her head against his shoulders. I was trying so hard to learn to just be your friend, trying to let you go and move on, but you made it seem like I was the only one that mattered to you. And I lost Cat, and then you left, and I chased after you because I couldn't lose you both. It took so long, and it hurt us both so much. She sniffled as the tears burned her eyes. Hey, it's okay, my love. He cradled her face in his hands and kissed her eyes to banish the tears. Do you know why I wanted us to come home early tonight? You were sick of the party too? No. After our talk earlier, I decided we needed to come home earlier because... He glanced at his watch, his lips spread into his Cheshire grin, and threw the curtains wide. The townhouse overlooked the Eiffel Tower, and at that moment, the fireworks launched upwards, bursting into a rainbow of colours, raining down like flowers onto the city below. Marinette stared at the kaleidoscope of colours shining in through the window and smiled. Adrien turned and pulled her back into his arms. This is our first New Year together, he whispered. I want to dance with you under the glow of the fireworks every year for our whole lives. I want to continue to court you so that you will always feel loved and needed as my princess. I want to sweep you off your feet every day. He wrapped her tightly and took possession of her lips, with a hunger that turned her knees as weak as water. She grabbed his jacket lapel to keep from falling, but he swept her into his arms as if he wouldn't let even gravity deprive him of her kisses. Her heart kept time with his as the coloured lights outside blossomed in their closed eyes. Both of them breathing hard, he eased just far enough away for him to see her rise. That is my resolution, he breathed. Will you help me keep it, Marinette? Her breath caught in her throat at the look of love and longing in his eyes. His heart was beating as fast as hers. This was their future, the interweaving of their lives, heartbeats and souls, letting nothing steal the joy and peace as they experienced in each other. Of course, my love, she whispered and pulled him in for a kiss of her own. When his eyes opened once more, he looked at her with a pleased smirk on his face. Since I seem to have a captivated audience, he bounced her in his arms enough to make her squeal and cling to his neck. I remember someone mentioning a certain nightgown. Marinette blushed and swatted him playfully on the shoulder. Adrien! He chuckled and made his way to the stairs. How can your kitty help it when you look like my own Lady Noir? Don't you dare, she cried, struggling weakly, pretending to leave his arms. His arms tightened around her, accepting her challenge, and rushed up the stairs to their room, with the home ringing with the sound of laughter. Thank you for listening to Once Upon a Story. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like button if you did. Comment down below what you thought of it. And make sure you subscribe. And I just want to wish you a very happy new year. And all the blessings to come for the new one to come. And I will speak to you soon. Bye.